We finally did it. We finally have reached what I like to call the core. All due respect to the names we talked about before, much love and respect to all of them. You know, all played a factor for better or worse in what happened to the Mariners in 2023. But we have finally reached those guys, those building blocks, those dudes, if you want to go there. And the first on that list, because we're going in order of negative to positive WAR, is Logan Gilbert, who finished 2023 3.0 wins above replacement, according to the fine folks at Baseball Reference. We'll talk about Logan Gilbert's season, but we'll talk about some more fine folks first. Simply Seattle. Simply Seattle provides the very best in Seattle sports gear. Great stuff for the Mariners, of course, but also the Seahawks, the Kraken, Huskies, Cougars, Storms, Sounders. I can go on and on. They have great stuff. And once you find all that great stuff and you're ready to check out, don't do it just yet. Use code MOLLYWAT15 to take 15% off your order. That automatically applies at checkout. SimplySeattle.com. There is a link in the description with that code, so you can just do some copying and pasting after you hit the old clicky click. So Logan Gilbert makes 32 starts for your Seattle Mariners. 190 and 2/3 innings, a career high by 5 innings over the 2022 season. 3.73 ERA, 189 strikeouts in those 192 third frames against 36 walks. I thought Logan Gilbert, so we gave that press conference. Oh, I wish we didn't have to talk about that press conference, but we gave that press conference a lot of guff, especially because remember, I didn't hear the 54% comments until after. But especially, oh, I guess it's time to wake up. So we'll hit pause. I'm recording this video at 6:30 in the morning. I guess I was supposed to turn that off before recording. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah. The step forward comments from Dipoto. Those really frustrated me. Really frustrated me because they didn't take a step forward as a team. There were some individual players who I think did. And for the most part, I would include Gilbert in that, even though, like, look, the actual stats for Logan Gilbert aren't quite as good, except for strikeouts. But ERA, half a run higher. I still think there was a step forward here in terms of command, in terms of arsenal. Poise has never been a big issue, but I see no reason to think that any moment's going to be too big for Logan Gilbert. But I do think he took a step forward, even if the stats were not a massive jump forward and in some ways backtracked. Let's take a look at some of the Savant stats because I think they're really interesting for Logan Gilbert. They're always interesting for Logan Gilbert. And by always, I mean a guy who's been around for 3 years. A lot of good expected ERA in the 71st percentile. Fastball velocity, that does matter. Still gets his fastball into that 96, 97 range on regularity. Averages 96 with it, in fact. 79th percentile. A big jump here is chase rate, and we'll talk about why in a second. But the walk rate, 4.7%. That's the 95th percentile. I mean, for all the things that we get frustrated about with the Seattle Mariners, or got frustrated by, in 2022, self-inflicted damage by the starters was not one. They threw a ton of strikes. Maybe too many strikes, but they certainly threw a ton. And when you throw strikes at that level and you throw 97 miles per hour and you generate the extension that Logan Gilbert does, I was honestly surprised that Logan Gilbert didn't generate the most extension in baseball just because he's so lengthy, 6'6", overhand arm getting up on top of you real quick. But it was in the 99th percentile. It's very hard to pick up a baseball when you are releasing a baseball that late. And when you are throwing strikes with that ability too, it's a deadly combination. It is one of the reasons why I think Logan Gilbert still has a chance to be among the best starters in baseball. I'm not expecting drastic improvements, but I can't completely rule him out either. And one of the reasons why is I think his slider made such a significant improvement. I know everybody talked about the splitter or change or whatever you want to call it. And yeah, that was big, especially against lefties. It was a big development. Shout out to the people at Driveline who did great work with Logan Gilbert. But I think the slider improvement was the big thing here. And the numbers kind of back that up. You'll excuse me while I roll down for a little bit. His slider pitch value last year, and pitch value's pretty good stat. 15 runs above average in value after being 0 in 2022, excuse me. 0 is not that bad. It's better, certainly better than negative, but it's made big jumps every year. In 2021, -9 run value. 2022, up to 0. 2023, 15. Easily his most valuable pitch. Hitters hit 211 against it, weighted on base average of 273, and whiffed at it 32.2% of the time. Now, the splitter was pretty darn good as well, and probably would have, I don't know if come close, but it was good. I don't know what I was trying to say there. It was good. 14.8% of the time he used it. Hitters hit only 175 against it. 343 slugging percentage, whiffed 34.7% of the time. K percentage of 46.3. That splitter was a big benefit, and I think he's probably got to throw it more. He has to be reliant on his secondary pitches more. And look, he threw his secondary pitches more often than his fastball by a considerable margin. His fastball he used 41.9% of the time. So the stats just tell you right there that 58 to 59%, if you include the sinker, which is, I think the sinker were just mislabeled, to be honest with you. But it does tell you he's using his secondary stuff more. He might need to use it a lot more because, and look, his four-seam fastball in 2021, elite. 19 runs above run value. 2022, it dips, but only to 12. Still easily his best pitch. It really wasn't a very good pitch in 2023. 312 times he threw it. Excuse me, 312 plate appearances. He threw it 1,224 times. Obviously, geez. It's early. You knew that. You heard my alarm. Batters hit 280 against it and slugged 491, and he only got 17% whiffs on it. That's really poor. And his command of that pitch was really ineffective. I do think, however, that there was a smidgen of bad luck, particularly with that pitch. Now, look, a lot of bad things can happen when you are missing your spots with your fastball, right? But let's take a look at his home and road splits real quick. I guess it won't be real quick because sometimes it takes a while to find these things. Let's hit pause while I do. All right, so he made 15 starts in the friendly confines. He made 17 away from home. His OPS at home was 685. Hitters against him, 685. Thankfully, we didn't have to watch Logan Gilbert hit. And away, it was 673. But his home ERA, even though that OPS is very similar, 4.1 compared to 3.4 away. And the reason being is in 15 starts and 358 plate appearances at home, he gave up 18 homers. In 90 innings, he gave up 18 homers. Away from home, he only gave up 11 homers in more innings. More innings, substantially less homers. I can't help but think there's some bad fly ball luck there. And you take a look at the slugging percentage, 390 on the road, 431 at home. In pretty friendly confines. Not the same as like the early. Griffey had to be frustrated as heck watching the ball fly out. The Justin Smokes. It's not that, but it's still pretty pitcher friendly. And a 431 slugging percentage. Look, I'll acknowledge that there were command issues, no doubt about it. But that's really weird. And I would bet against him giving up a homer every 5 innings at home next year. Maybe you see a little bit of regression in the away stats, but I wouldn't. I think that's about what he is. And just for those who are obviously curious, 92 to 16 strikeout to walk ratio at home, 97 to 20 strikeout to walk ratio away. So it wasn't a question of his stuff. I think there was some bad luck here at home. Some fly balls that maybe go to the warning track happen to go over the fence. Not an excuse. I just think it's worth pointing out. I will say, though, the consistency has to get better. The consistency has to get better. We talked about it all year, that we would see a brilliant Logan Gilbert start followed by one that frustrated the heck out of me. And again, we talked about frustration in the Ty France video. You don't get frustrated by bad players having bad starts. I'm not frustrated when I see Luke Weaver, give up 6 runs in 3 2/3 innings because it's Luke Weaver. Shout out to Luke Weaver. I may get frustrated with Scott Service for leaving him in too long. I may get frustrated with Dipoto and Hollander for having him on the roster and not having an upgrade. But it's not with Weaver. I had legitimate frustrations with Logan Gilbert because high expectations. And there were some clunkers. He wasn't very good in September. 4.04 ERA, not a disaster, but they needed better. He was bad in June. A couple of bad starts in June. 4.45 ERA. Started the year with some clunkers too. Excellent in July and August. Say what you will about win-loss records, but he goes 7-0 in that month. And you should say it, by the way. Win-loss is a terrible stat. I'm just pointing it out. But a 2.78 ERA in July, a 2.97 ERA in August, a combined 60 to 9 strikeout to walk ratio in those 2 months. That's outstanding. And that's the level of expectation I have for Logan Gilbert. There's a good chance he's the guy that he was in May. 6 games, 3.96 ERA, 39 to 6 strikeout to walk ratio. That's valuable, but I expect more. I expect a lot more. I just wonder if the step forward is made in 2024. I can't guarantee it. I wouldn't be surprised, though, because I think he's going to have even more comfort with that splitter, that slider making that big benefit, big jump, big benefit. It certainly could come. I'm still ranking him third among the Seattle Mariners starters by a considerable margin. But that's more compliment to Castillo and Kirby, or Kirby and Castillo, whatever order you want to go, than it is insult to Gilbert. That is a really good top 3 in a rotation. And then when you consider that, we'll get more into it, but the starting pitching is not a concern for me in 2024. Wouldn't mind adding another one. Particularly a big Husky fan who may have won a couple of Cy Youngs. Wouldn't mind it at all. But I do have a lot of confidence in this group, and not in particular, but Logan Gilbert is a reason for it, for sure. Do you think Logan Gilbert takes a step forward in 2024? Would you agree that the consistency has to get better? Let me know in the comments section. Please hit like, please hit subscribe. Follow me on all the websites. I don't care about the websites too much anymore, but yeah, we did it, guys. We reached the legitimate portion of the roster. I'm excited to talk about all these guys. I've been excited to do all of them except for the Ty France video, and that has more to do with frustration than me hating Ty France by any stretch of the imagination. Talk to you soon. I think next up is a big old number.